My name is Niklas Elmhed, and I'm a visual artist. Imagine your face being portrayed in a very minimalistic but characteristic way, painted with one color, maybe two, and then we take your portrait and present it to the world as a symbol for the greatest benefit to humankind, or it can be a symbol that touches people, so they start thinking into new directions. Or it could be a symbol for the ancient gods from the legends and the myths. My job is to paint these portraits, and I will show you some cases, how I have done so, and also how I build a concept behind them. Every year in October, the new Nobel Prizes are announced. And I have the great privilege to paint all of the official portraits of these Nobel Prize winners, or laureates as they are called. And it looks like this when they are presented to the world. And it looks pretty digitalized, as you can see. But as a matter of fact, they are all paintings made with black acrylics and gold metal foil onto paper. The interest of this prize is huge in the world. So within seconds and minutes after the names are announced, the images and the names are traveling over the world and shared by millions in social media, but also displayed in news media. And I have taken some examples here. We have Greece and USA, and we have India and Japan in the top row, and many of the scientific-related newspapers, of course, one example on the bottom row, and UK also in the bottom row, and several of them are also shown at physical places, and one example is Times Square in New York City. All my paintings are built upon concept, because the concept goes first in the visual language. It's the fundament. That's what you want to say. And that could be many things, but my method is to boil it down to just a few keywords. And in the Nobel Prize case, it is breaking news, strong, black, bold brushstrokes on white background, high impact, high contrast. Celebration, it's gold. Shiny, exclusive. Recognition is crucial in this case. Wherever you see one of the portraits, you will recognize it as a Nobel laureate. I have done this job since 2012. And back then I was the art director of the Nobel Prize. And when I couldn't find a photo to show, I did a quick drawing with a black marker. And I did the same in 2013, but then a couple of the images were picked up by news media. And the Nobel Prize really liked that. So they asked me if I could come up with an artistic graphical concept unique for the announcements. And I was an independent artist back then, and I experimented a lot, and it ended up with the example in the middle, the blue and yellow shadows and black outlines. And then the images really started to be shared around the world. 2018, the Nobel Prize had changed their graphical identity, and the main color of the announcement was set to be gold, not gold paint, the texture, real gold. So that's when the gold metal foil came in. And this is a very early work-in-progress painting, going from this black marker drawing style to the blue and yellow style. And then some years later, it ended up with the golden black style. Next case I would like to show you is an ongoing art exhibition on tour in the world right now. And its title is Freedom in the Equation. And it's an initiative taken by a media platform called Kunst and Science at Risk. And they wanted to highlight 10 Ukrainian scientists, very talented and successful, but they have one sad thing in common, because they got stopped, and either by repression, they were put into jail of political reasons, or they got killed in different wars. So I was asked to do these 10 portraits on commission, and they are presented along with a short biography for each scientist. And I start with a concept, and in this case it was Ukraine, of course, and blue and yellow again, and that was a challenge because they have the same colors in their flag as we do in Sweden, and I didn't want them to look too similar to the Nobel Prize paintings. And I also added the word destruction because of their sad destiny. And the first painting I did was the one to the left, and it's an ink painting, and I really liked it, but I found it too similar to the Nobel Prize style. And it also lacked the word of destruction. So I started to experiment with the inside forms in the head and the face, and got inspired by cracked glass and cracked ceramics. And then I could also use these white cracks to build up the shape of the head. And this is a marker drawing. And I cleaned it up and put on the correct colors from the flag, and it looks like this. The first stop of this exhibition was just recently at the art gallery at Harvard University in Boston. And here you can see the portraits along with a short biography. Yesterday, I came directly to Patras from Osaka in Japan, where the World Expo is happening right now. And I was invited as an artist to paint all the things that happened during Sweden's Day, the 14th of May. And that was a lot of things, ceremonies, prominent people speaking and talking, discussing things. And my client wanted to highlight the collaboration between Sweden and Japan. So that was my first keyword phrase. And then I also added snapshots, because so many things happening, I want to create the feeling of action. This was the first painting I did. And again, we got blue and we got yellow, but I also added white and red from the Japanese flag, together with the black to get a little bit more strong impact, but also a strong reference to Japanese calligraphy and traditional ink paintings. And I also used another brush, a brush with the bristles pointing to different directions, so you get this very emphasized brush strokes, and that also creates a feeling of speed and snapshots, the action. This was one of the speakers, and the official mascot, Miyaku Miyaku, of the expo. Behind all my paintings I do, there is a drawing or a sketch made with a pencil, a graphite pencil. And it can be detailed or less detailed. And this is to build up the shape of the head, which is very crucial to get likeness in a portrait, but also, of course, to get details like eyes and nose, etc., on the correct place. And then I use this sketch or drawing to make the finalized painting. This is our Swedish king. And this is a cute little dove I found just outside the area of the World Expo. When I first got this request to do this talk by TEDx, I start to think, I do so many portraits, I start to think, what impact has the human face and the portrait to us as human beings? I mean, if you go into an old art museum or a castle, there are portraits everywhere of prominent persons like queens and kings, etc. And social media today, as you know, are flooded by selfies. So I started an own little research of how the philosophy and psychology have examined the face and the portraits in their work. And I got struck because there were so many references to the ancient gods and the mythology of Greece. So I said to myself, hey, I'm going to Greece to have this talk, so why don't I come up with an artistic concept of the ancient gods to show you my process, how I work with it. And I start with a concept, as you know. We have the history, of course, in the ancient past, but we have also the theme of today, so I added the word future. And when I think upon a god, I think about power and powerful. So that was my other keyword. And I have never painted a god before, so I needed a model. And in Sweden, we have the Royal Academy of Fine Arts, where they have this huge, beautiful collection of plaster copies, 800 pieces of sculptures from Greece and the Roman. And I fell for this, the famous goddess of love, Aphrodite, or Venus from Milo, the island in your beautiful archipelago, not very far away from here. And I started with a drawing, a sketch, became a drawing, ended up to something like this. Then I got inspired by the traditional ceramics, the paintings on them. And as you know, they are painted with black outlines, and they are light characters on a heavy, bold black background, and they are all painted with warm earth tones. And it can also be the opposite with these black characters onto the light background. I started off with the black painting on white background, and then I added the terracotta color or the earth tone with an aquarelle. And also the heavy black background. And so far, I've only worked with the history, as you can see. And I want to add the word future. And just recently, I read this very famous science fiction book, Dune, written by Frank Herbert. And in that book, there is a tribe on the planet Arrakis. And they harvest a super expensive spice. And when they handle this spice, their eyes are turning blue. And I really liked that concept, so I decided to add it to my painting style, but with a twist. So I took this one, and then I added also small stars. And my intention is that you get a feeling of looking through her eyes and see straight into the universe behind her. Because this is not an ordinary woman, this is a goddess with power. She's powerful. And you can also have the opposite, of course, that she's looking from the universe straight at you as a viewer in a very hypnotic way. And this is the result as it is right now. And I will definitely continue with this and work with it. But it will be a work that I will start off with tomorrow. And I will keep you updated. Thank you for your time.